The moment you stopped waiting, the moment you stopped checking your phone, the moment you decided that your peace was worth more than their inconsistency, that was the exact moment everything shifted. And they felt it. Oh, they felt it in a way that they are completely unprepared for. Because here's the thing about people who take you for granted, they never actually believe you'll leave. They never believe you'll heal. They never believe you'll glow. And right now, in this season of your life, you are doing all three at the same time, and the panic on their end is real. The energy coming through right now is almost overwhelming because there are people connected to you who are absolutely shaken. Not a little uncomfortable. Not slightly curious. Fully, completely, spiritually rattled. And this reading is going to show you exactly what's happening on their end, what they're feeling, what they're saying behind closed doors, and what they are desperately trying to figure out now that they've realized, too late, what they had in you. So take a breath. Sit with this. Because this one is going to hit different. The first thing that's coming through so clearly is that the person or people connected to you right now are watching you from a distance and they are confused. Not the kind of confused where they don't know what's happening, they know exactly what's happening. You moved on. You chose yourself. You stopped pouring into a situation that was draining you dry. What they're confused about is how you did it. How did you just let go? How did you just shift into this version of yourself so seamlessly? Because from where they're standing, they thought you needed them. They genuinely believed that you were more invested, more dependent, more emotionally tied to them than they were to you. And they used that as a kind of invisible leverage. Not necessarily in a cruel, calculated way, though for some of you watching, yes, it was absolutely intentional, but for others it was simply the quiet arrogance of someone who assumed they held more power than they actually did. And now that leverage is gone. And they are scrambling. I'm sensing this frantic, almost frenzied energy around this person right now. Like they keep picking up their phone and putting it down. Picking it up, putting it down. They've typed messages they haven't sent. They've gone to your profile more times than they would ever admit to another human being. And every time they see something, a post, a story, a comment from someone new, anything that suggests your life is continuing and flourishing without them in it, something drops in their chest. Something that they don't have a clean word for because admitting what it actually is would require a level of self-honesty they haven't been ready for until right now. What it is regret. Deep, gnawing, middle-of-the-night regret. Now here's what's really coming through, and I want you to pay close attention to this because this is the part that tends to shake people. There is a specific moment, and many of you watching are going to know exactly what moment I'm talking about, where this person realized it was real. It wasn't just you pulling back temporarily. It wasn't you giving them the silent treatment to get a reaction. You were genuinely done. And the way they found out wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight. There was no final conversation where you laid everything out. You just stopped. You stopped being available in the way you used to be. You stopped reaching out first. You stopped softening yourself to make space for their comfort. And when they went to find that familiar warmth in you, it just wasn't there anymore. And something in the spiritual is showing me that this person stood still for a moment in that realization. Like genuinely frozen. Because the version of you they had memorized, the version they had grown comfortable with, had evolved into something they don't fully recognize. And I don't mean that in a cold or harsh way. I mean it in the most powerful way possible. You have changed. Not because something broke you, but because something in you decided it was done being bent. That is terrifying to someone who relied on your flexibility. Let me talk about what they're telling people right now because this is coming through strongly and some of you need to hear this. This person has been talking. Not loudly, not openly, but they've been in conversations with a friend, a family member, maybe even just sitting with their own thoughts, where they've been trying to reframe the story of what happened between you two. And the narrative they keep trying to build is one where they were fine with things ending. Where they were ready to move on too. Where it was mutual, or maybe even where they were the one who emotionally stepped back first. But here's what's spiritually coming through: they don't even believe what they're saying. They're performing a version of unbothered that doesn't match what's happening internally. Because internally this is hitting them. Every time they act unbothered around other people, the second they're alone the energy drops. The act falls. And they're sitting with something they are not used to sitting with, which is the feeling of having underestimated someone. Of having miscalculated. Of having assumed that a person who was patient and loving and present would just stay that way indefinitely regardless of how they were treated. And some of you watching, I feel this for a group of you specifically, you were so consistent. You were so genuinely there. You showed up in ways this person never acknowledged out loud but internally recorded. They knew what they had. They just didn't believe you'd reach a point where you'd value yourself more than you valued keeping the peace with them. And you reached that point. You crossed that threshold. And now the version of you they were counting on being able to return to one day, on their terms, on their timeline, is simply not available anymore. Now I want to talk about what's being revealed to them energetically right now, because the spiritual layer of this reading is incredibly active and I need you to sit with this. There is a truth being downloaded into this person about who you are and what you carry. It's like something is being pulled back, like a veil lifting, and they are being shown the depth of what they dismissed. The gifts you have. The magnitude of what you're capable of. The way other people see you and respond to you and are drawn to you. And what's making this so potent for them is that they're not hearing it secondhand. They're watching it in real time. You are glowing right now in a way that is impossible to ignore. And I don't mean that just physically, though for a lot of you that is absolutely part of it. I mean your energy has changed. Your presence has changed. The way you walk into spaces, the way you engage with people, the way you talk about your life and your future, there is a lightness in you that wasn't fully there when you were pouring your energy into something that wasn't reciprocating. That lightness is visible. It is radiating. And the people around you can feel it, including the person who thought you'd stay dimmed. Something is also coming through around new attention coming toward you. Not just from this person connected to you, but from others. And this specific person is seeing it or sensing it or hearing about it, and the jealousy is mixing with the regret in a way that's creating full emotional chaos on their end. Because it's one thing to tell yourself you didn't value someone enough when they're still invisible in your periphery. It's another thing entirely to watch the world start to see what you failed to protect. They are watching people gravitate toward you, and it is undoing something in them. I need to speak to what this person actually wants right now, because this is where it gets complicated and I want to be honest with you about it. There are two different impulses running through them simultaneously, and they haven't resolved the tension between those two things yet. The first impulse is ego. They want to reach out, but they want to do it from a position of power. They want to be the one who decides when the reconnection happens, how it's framed, what it means. There's a part of them that is still holding on to the idea that if they time this right, they can come back in a way that doesn't require them to fully acknowledge what they did or didn't do. They're looking for the angle that preserves their dignity while also getting them back into your orbit. But the second impulse is genuinely something deeper. And I want you to hear this without it swaying you in any direction, just let it be information. There is a real feeling there. Not manufactured, not purely strategic. This person has genuine feeling for you that they suppressed or neglected or covered over with their own fear and their own unavailability. And the distance you've created is cracking something open in them that they haven't let themselves feel in a long time. They are sitting with an emotional vulnerability right now that they don't know what to do with. The question is never whether the feeling is real. Sometimes the feeling is very real. The question is whether the person is actually willing to do the work to become someone who shows up differently. And that is not something this reading can tell you with certainty. What the energy shows is the emotion. Whether they choose to let that emotion lead them toward genuine change is entirely up to them. But here's what I want you to hold on to: you are not obligated to wait while they figure it out. Let me tell you what is being said about you in private conversations right now, because this is something that's coming through with incredible clarity. Someone close to this person, a friend, someone they confide in, has essentially told them the truth. Not cruelly, but plainly. This person in their life who cares about them has said something along the lines of, "You let something good go." They've said it in a way that lands, in a way that isn't easy to dismiss or argue with. And the reason this person couldn't fully defend themselves in that conversation is because somewhere underneath all the pride and the deflection they know it's true. And after that conversation, whether it was recent or a little while ago, something shifted in how urgently this person is now thinking about you. Because there's something different about being confronted with the reality of your own choices by someone who has no reason to sugarcoat it. And that conversation has been replaying. They keep coming back to it. There's also something being shown to me about things you never said. Things you carried quietly that this person never knew the full weight of. Sacrifices you made. Times you showed up when it cost you something. Things you let slide, not because you didn't notice, but because you were invested and you were choosing the relationship over the conflict. And somehow, energetically, those things are being revealed to them now. Not because you said anything, but because truth has a way of surfacing when the distraction of your presence is gone and all that's left is the echo of what they didn't appreciate. They are replaying things and understanding them differently now. I also want to speak to what's ahead for you, because the energy here is not just about them and their panic. This reading is ultimately about you and what this season is unlocking. Something has been set in motion by your choice to move on. Not just emotionally, but in terms of the trajectory of your life. There's a clearing happening. Space is being made, not empty, hollow space, but the kind of space that's actually full of possibility. The kind of space where the right things, the right people, the right opportunities can actually land and take root, because you're no longer filling every inch of your energy trying to hold together something that was always slightly fractured. And I want to be really clear about something, because I feel it strongly. The version of love that's moving toward your life is not the kind that requires you to shrink. It's not the kind that keeps you guessing. It's not the kind that only calls when they're lonely or only shows up when they need something from you. What's moving toward you, and this is not wishful energy, this is what's literally coming through, is someone or a situation where you are chosen clearly, consistently, and without reservation. Where you don't have to decode mixed signals or wonder where you stand. Where your presence is treated as the gift that it actually is. And the reason that's moving toward you is directly connected to the fact that you stopped accepting less than that. The moment you decided you deserved better, you began vibrating at a frequency that matched better. That is not a metaphor. That is spiritually, energetically, exactly what is happening. So let's talk about what comes next with this person in your past, because I know that's what some of you are here for, and I want to honor that honestly. They are going to reach out. The energy around this is not a maybe. For the majority of people watching this right now, contact is coming. What varies is the form it takes and the timing. For some of you it's going to be something small, a reaction to something you posted, a message that seems low stakes, something that gives them an opening without full exposure. For others it's going to be more direct. Something that's been sitting with them that they finally decide to say out loud, because the weight of not saying it has become heavier than the fear of rejection. What I want you to be prepared for is this: the energy they bring when they reach out may feel familiar in all the right ways. They will likely come as the version of themselves you always hoped was underneath the surface. Warmer. More open. More willing to acknowledge things. And I'm not saying that's fake. The growth may be real. The feeling may be genuine. But you are absolutely allowed, to receive that with your wisdom intact and your boundaries solid. You do not have to choose between being open and being grounded. You can hold both. The most important thing I want to leave you with energetically is this: your peace is not negotiable. Not for nostalgia. Not for the feeling of familiarity. Not for love, even real love, if that love is not being expressed in ways that align with what you actually need. You moved on. Maybe not completely, maybe not without looking back, maybe not without some grief mixed into the process. But you moved. And that movement was not just about walking away from someone. It was about walking toward yourself. And they saw it. And now they're in full panic mode. Because they finally understand what that means, that the person who loved them the way you love them has decided that their own soul is worth the same devotion they were giving away. That realization, for someone who took you for granted, is not a small thing. That is everything. Stay grounded. Stay in your power. Your comeback is already in motion and the right people are already paying attention. Trust the version of yourself that decided enough was enough, because that version knew something before your emotions caught up. And if this reading resonated, you already know why. The truth doesn't need convincing. It just needs witnessing. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.